The following stories tell the tale of 3 teenage girls who miraculously managed to avoid being killed at the hands of truly horrific people. We have a girl who was strangled by a teacher and left in the woods to die, a 14-year-old who was shot in the back of the head by a boy she liked, and another girl who was the sole survivor of her family's horrific massacre.
He used his foot for leverage to choke as hard as he could, and the belt broke.
This is the remarkable story of the survival of a girl who somehow beat all the odds. She is a true fighter who refused to let evil claim her life. It's disturbing and incredibly hard to imagine.
Lieutenant, if I could get some light, please.
Everything changes in the blink of an eye.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
This is 17-year-old Ashley Reeves, a bright, beautiful girl with her entire life ahead of her. But this life was almost cut short at the hands of someone she thought really cared about her. She was a good student with lots of friends, and she had a steady boyfriend named Jeremy. Ashley's little sister Casey greatly looked up to her.
She was very motivated. She was a strong person. She was always out. She had a lot of friends. She was very dedicated to school. She knew what she was going to do in life.
Ashley was your typical Midwestern girl who had a good head on her shoulders and a great motivation for life. She was also well-behaved and rarely got in trouble. Ashley was also an incredible fighter, and it's because of the fight that she had inside of her that she managed to survive a horrific attack in the woods. It all started one Thursday in April. Ashley left home to go to an appointment in a town called Fairfield Heights.
Did she tell you where she was going? She drove me home from school and she told me she was going to a job interview.
Ashley had borrowed her boyfriend Jeremy's SUV for the outing and had planned to arrive home that night by her curfew, which was 10 p.m. But when 10 p.m. came and went and nobody had heard from her, Ashley's family began to get worried.
It was our curfew time. My parents were asking, "Hey, have you talked to your sister? You know, how'd it go? Did she call you about the interview? Did it go good?"
But Ashley hadn't called her sister, nor did she tell anyone she was going to be home late. It was not like her and very concerning behavior. Her parents reached out to some of Ashley's friends and grew even more concerned when they told them that she hadn't been answering them either.
This missing girl, Ashley Reeves, was not answering even text from any of her friends. And one thing we know with young ladies is they will maybe not answer their parents, but they will answer their friends.
Ashley's mother, incredibly concerned, called the police to report her daughter as a missing person.
Call in all units.
Now, in many of these cases, when it's still so early on that the person is missing, it's often the case that someone is just forgetting what time it is or staying out a little longer than they expected. But with this case and the type of person that Ashley was, police knew that if this was out of character for her, then they needed to act quick.
It wasn't too much longer after that, Ashley's car that she had been driving was found at Latterman Park here in Belleville.
Inside Jeremy's abandoned SUV are Ashley's outfit for the job interview and basketball clothes, but no sign of Ashley.
At this point, the police are more than just a little worried. It's clear that something has happened to this young girl. What they are interested in now is who Ashley may have been talking to last and whether or not they knew anything. One of the people they knew they wanted to talk to was her boyfriend, Jeremy.
Ashley's boyfriend Jeremy is a parent's dream, wholesome, forthright, seemed to adore their daughter, but now investigators want to talk to him.
And so Jeremy was taken in for questioning. It's hard to imagine how he must have felt at the time. He had just been told that his girlfriend was missing, and now the police were trying to figure out whether or not he could have something to do with it. This interaction between the police and Jeremy was caught on camera.
You are Ashley's boyfriend, is that correct? How often do you see her?
Once a day, usually.
Once a day, so I mean you guys are pretty serious.
Yeah. Believe me, I seriously am giving you my 100% all, telling you the truth. I mean, I love her. I love her to death. Anything to get her back. You know, I've cried, but I mean, I'm just so tore up about it.
He was clearly upset, and the police came to believe that he was genuine and didn't know anything about what was going on. But if he wasn't the suspect that they were looking for, who was? And then when Jeremy mentioned that Ashley had said about her plans for that night she went missing, they finally got an important clue.
She said, I'm gonna go to this interview and I wanna go play basketball.
But something was clearly not adding up. The car she had been driving was found far away from home. Why wouldn't she have chosen a basketball court that was nearby? They continued to reach out to Ashley's friends to learn more about what she could have been doing. And finally, there is a bombshell revelation.
A friend tells police Ashley would often meet a man at a park to play ball. Someone they all knew, 27-year-old Samson Shelton. Sam is the driver's ed and gym teacher at a rival school, an aspiring pro wrestler calling himself the Teacher.
Obviously, this is going to raise some red flags. What is a 27-year-old doing hanging out with a 17-year-old alone? Sam Shelton lived nearby with his mother and grandmother. Was it possible he was having a secret relationship with Ashley and nobody knew about it? According to Ashley's sister Casey, everyone knew about Sam, and a lot of the girls thought that he was attractive. He would use this to his advantage.
He knew he was good looking and charming, and I mean, even when he was our student teacher, everybody was like, oh, he's the cute student teacher, you know.
Jeremy also knew of Sam, but he didn't think there was anything going on between him and his girlfriend.
Sam, the teacher that is a friend of yours, do you suspect anything between Sam and Ashley?
No. I couldn't see it. I mean, I don't think he'd ever do anything to harm her.
But the police aren't so sure. Meanwhile, Ashley's mother and sister are combing through the phone bill, looking at all the phone numbers that she recently called. They find one they don't recognize, and it's Sam's number. They decide to give it a call.
My mom had actually talked to Sam that night, and he said, no, haven't heard from her, haven't seen her. Hung up like it was no big deal.
But the police weren't going to overlook Sam just like that, especially since new information had just come forward. One of Ashley's friends had said that Ashley had plans to meet up with an older man and that the two were romantically involved, despite her dating Jeremy. Sam is brought in for questioning and appears to cooperate with the police.
Well, I'd give her like a hug goodbye. I would do that. I guess I'm cool with it to give her some hug goodbye.
According to Sam, Ashley was the one that had developed a crush on him and that he didn't reciprocate the feelings.
I think she kind of started becoming obsessed with me. Because like I said, she was calling me, not like literally not stopping.
Sam seems to think that he can talk his way out of this, but what he didn't know was that the police knew more than they were letting on. They had statements from Ashley's friends about their relationship.
I will say this, we never kissed. We never kissed. Yes, we did have sex in the back of the vehicle there, and after that day, I felt absolutely terrible about that.
Clearly, there is a lot more to this story, but they would need to get more information out of Sam if they wanted to actually find Ashley.
Do you want to complain about what's been going on, or do you want to continue to just dig a deeper and deeper hole? Because the ship is sinking.
It takes a lot of persuasion, but eventually he starts to open up about what was his last interaction with Ashley and what it had been like. He said that they were in the car when they had a great big fight, and he pushed her out of the vehicle.
She was screaming, kicking, everything. Put it down, shut the door, ran the car, I took off. I left her. I left her there, is what I did. I left her out there, I ran over and drove. I left her right out there.
Sam said he didn't know what may have happened to Ashley after he left her on the road.
If I would have drove by there, and if I would have seen her, like, I don't know, if she got hit by a car or something, she was laying over there in the ditch, if I would have seen that, I could not stand that. I mean, I have an absolute fear. I have a very weak stomach when it comes to like gore movies.
So, does having a weak stomach mean you can't be a possible killer? This isn't enough to rule Sam out as he might have thought. But that's not all. His story just doesn't make sense. If he cared about this girl, as he claimed to have done, why wouldn't he have at least called her to make sure that she was okay?
If I had any other information about her, I would let you know.
At this point, the police are stuck. They know he's not telling the truth, and they are running out of time. If Ashley is still out there, they need to find her right away. And so they quickly dig for information about Sam's life to see if they can use it to get him to open up.
20 minutes later, Shelton crumbles at the mention of one name.
If I left from here and I went and talked to Grandma right now and I laid down this whole story,
that you're saying? What's Grandma gonna say?
I just want to go home. I just want to explain to Mom and Grandma exactly what happened.
With his mother and grandma on his mind, Sam can no longer keep up the lies. He starts to show real emotion as he breaks down in tears, and he's finally willing to make the confession.
What's going on, Sam?
Can I go show you what happened?
Please. She's still out there, Sam. She is. And where's it at?
I have to show you.
At this point, they believe that what they have on their hands is a murder victim whose body has not yet been recovered. And at that time, that is what Sam believed too.
I just thought you were out the deck to make it look like sweet. They're out there.
Sam told the police that he would take them to where Ashley's body was. He had dragged her far out into the woods during the afternoon that following day. Now that it was night and dark out, trying to find her was going to be very difficult. And the rain made it all the more difficult.
Came in there. I don't know. I came in the woods and I just started moving.
The poor girl's body could literally be anywhere in the woods. The more time that passed without finding her, police began to wonder if Sam was still lying to them. But finally, one of the officers' flashlights lands on the badly wounded body of Ashley.
She was laying on the ground, on her back, obviously deceased.
Poor Ashley had been there for an unimaginable 30 awful hours. But just when the police thought all hope was lost, they noticed her chest move.
Ashley, can you hear me? Can you see my light, Ashley?
Oh my God, we found her. She's alive.
Ashley was weak, cold, and nearly to death. Getting her to the hospital immediately was the only thing that could save her. Ashley's prognosis was not good, and a lot of people didn't think she would manage to survive. But still, the girl was a determined fighter. Meanwhile, the police examined Sam's body for signs that Ashley had tried to fight back, and there is strangely not a mark on him. Eventually, they would find out why. When Ashley and Sam got into the fight, he put her into a chokehold and heard her neck pop. It was at that point that he completely panicked.
I was a nervous wreck thinking, what do I do? What do I do? I wanted to make it look like Ashley got there in the woods.
Ultimately, he decided to choke her first with his hands. When that didn't work, he used his belt instead.
I took the belt, I pulled it on her neck. I don't know how long I held on. I had to turn my head because I didn't want to see.
He saw spit foam coming out of her neck, and she no longer looked like a normal person. He believed she was dead.
I just took off, and I literally darted through there like a bat out of hell.
Sam is in the police station about to face an attempted murder charge, and he's worried about things like his toothbrush and whether or not he would get to use the bathroom in private.
Am I able to get like a little private toilet because I can't pee when there's people around because of my urinary stress disorder?
Despite being arrested and charged with attempted murder, Sam was actually granted bail and allowed to go home. While at home, the reality of what he was facing must have set in for Sam. He attempted to take his own life using prescription medication and alcohol, but he was saved. While in the hospital, doctors and nurses discovered that he had written a message on his chest in marker, asking them not to resuscitate him. At the time, investigators looked into this as an attempt to get some sort of sympathy and not a way to actually end his life. It didn't work out for him. Sam pleaded guilty to attempted murder and was sentenced to 20 years behind bars. But what about his victim, Ashley? What became of her?
She's tough. One of the toughest people that you would meet.
Remarkably, Ashley survived, but she still had to spend months in the hospital. It was incredibly difficult for her family to watch.
How long in your memory was it before she could start communicating and could start moving again?
It was quite a while. It took a while for her to come out of the coma. It took a while for her brain to wake up. Her brain was relapsing the incident over and over.
But Ashley was a warrior, determined to make it through.
Do you remember anything about that day of the attack?
I don't remember a couple days prior, and I don't remember weeks after, and I especially don't remember anything about that day.
But Ashley does remember that it was her wanting to break up with Sam and not the other way around, as he had said. In the hospital, she had to relearn everything from how to move and talk to how to eat and drink. Getting to have the most small pleasures of life was exciting.
I remember my first drink of water, and it was amazing.
Ashley waited many years to watch the confession tapes from Sam. When she did, she only watched a small amount of it before deciding it was too traumatizing to hear. She was particularly bothered by how he showed no remorse for what he had done. She did, however, watch the video of the police finding her in the woods.
It was just extremely upsetting to me and just kind of heartbreaking, because I always saw the same as my friends. And to have everybody tell me what happened and what he did, and then to see it was just kind of almost, overwhelming.
Sam will be eligible for parole next year in 2023. Meanwhile, Ashley is now 39 years old. She has 2 children and a good job, and she is thriving. Her message for others is to never give up on yourself, no matter how hard it may get.
Cache County shooting survivor Deserae Turner is gaining her independence. In 2017, she was shot in the head and left for dead in a Smithfield canal.
Deserae Turner was just a happy 14-year-old girl when her life was changed forever one February day back in 2017. When she never made it home from school, her parents began to worry. It was unlike her to not call.
It did worry me right from the start. She's not here, and she would be.
Deserae was reported missing, and a massive search ensued. Many of her friends were questioned, her extended family and even her former teachers took part in the search. About 8 hours after she was first reported missing, Deserae is found lying at the bottom of a snowy canal.
We're looking for her, and I found her. I think she was alive and everything, but she had a gunshot wound in her head.
Deserae laid in this cold ditch for 8 hours after being shot in the head. She was alive, but in very serious condition. Her mother remembers the moment she got the phone call.
Christy had called me, and she's like, "We found her." I'm like, "What?" She's like, "We found her."
Deserae was rushed to the hospital, and it soon became clear that she had a tough road ahead of her.
Deserae spent the next 63 days in the hospital. Her mom never left her side.
When you hear about people getting shot in the head, it's not often that they end up surviving, and it's even more rare for them to still have the same mental capacity they had before. Her family relied on their faith to get them through. But who could have possibly done this to Deserae? Because she was unconscious, she couldn't tell anyone. So the police initially relied on cell phone data and whatever clues they could get from the community. They had discovered that one of the numbers that Deserae had communicated with before being shot belonged to Coulter Peterson. He immediately became a person of interest, despite denying that he had talked to Deserae recently. He even became more of a person of interest when he was captured on doorbell footage near the area where Deserae was found. He was walking with another boy, later identified as Jason Decker.
We had no solid evidence that it was him. We needed this interview. They said that after school he had left with Jason, gone to his house, played a couple video games, and then walked to Jason's house.
Jason was interviewed but denied any involvement in what happened to Deserae. But he did say that Coulter had briefly left during the time they had been hanging out together. The police again zero in on Coulter. They even lie to him to get his reaction.
We actually told Coulter that Deserae was dead. We saw his body language slump. We saw all the reactions that you see in a typical interview when somebody knows something and they're not disclosing it.
Eventually, Coulter breaks down. He admits that he had lured Deserae to the canal where he shot her in the head. He was then arrested for attempted murder.
When we found out that it was a boy that she actually really liked and wanted to spend time with, it was so sad and shocking.
As the details of the case would begin to unravel, police learned that it wasn't just Coulter there the day of the shooting. Jason had also been involved, and they had planned this whole thing ahead of time.
His story is that he feared for his life and felt that Coulter was going to kill him if he said anything.
After Coulter shot Deserae, the boys stole her iPod and the money she had on her before leaving her to die. Their motive? This all began when Coulter became annoyed that Deserae was messaging him often on Snapchat. When Deserae's Snapchat messages were downloaded by the police, it was clear that she and Coulter had communicated a lot.
Lots and lots of text messages. On the day of the incident, Deserae had been wanting to buy a pocket knife and had communicated that to Coulter, and that Coulter had a pocket knife that he wanted to sell to her.
This was how he lured her to the canal. Police also looked through the messages that Coulter and Jason had shared. It was clear that they were working on a plan together.
Coulter asked if everything was clear, and Jason responded, yeah, it was clear.
I believe it was Jason texted Coulter the signal to shoot her.
Jason was arrested and faced charges similar to Coulter's. Both boys pleaded guilty to the felony charges. Meanwhile, recovery for Deserae was brutal. She had to go through 10 different brain surgeries, spend a lot of time in the hospital, and had to use a prosthetic robotic arm to make up for the functioning that was lost as the result of her injuries. This adjustment was understandably challenging, but through it all, she remained positive. While in court, Deserae finally had the opportunity to confront her would-be killer, Coulter. All the while, he sobbed.
What kind of person thinks about killing another person? What kind of person wants to experience the feeling of ending another's life without watching someone take their last breath? A person that is pure evil.
Coulter was sentenced to spend 15 years to life in prison for what he did to Deserae. Jason received a similar sentence. Meanwhile, Deserae never let what happened to her define her life. She remained strong and dedicated to her healing process. She won prom queen, graduated high school, and is moving forward with her life while relying on her faith.
I have felt Christ carry me through my hard times. He's been there to comfort me.
If you thought this story of survival was incredible, we've got one more for you that is sure to shock you.
I would like to thank all of the first responders, nurses, and doctors that have taken care of me. I'm feeling a lot better, and I'm on a very straightforward path to a full recovery.
A full recovery. Some at this memorial service might call that a miracle, considering what happened to 15-year-old Cassidy Stay and her family just last week.
Cassidy Stay was just a normal teenager living a happy life when her life was changed forever. She answered the door to her family's home, and just like that, a horrific massacre began.
Wednesday afternoon, police say Ronald Haskell, posing as a FedEx delivery man, forced his way into the Stay's Texas home. Haskell reportedly tied up Cassidy and her family. Police say he demanded to know the whereabouts of his ex-wife, Cassidy's aunt.
That's right. The man that caused this massacre was Cassidy's uncle Ronnie. He had been married to her Aunt Melanie, who ultimately divorced him after years of alleged abuse by him. She had filed a protective order against him, and he was looking to get revenge on the entire family. Cassidy begged Ronald to spare her life, as well as the lives of her parents and her 4 young siblings, ages 4 through 14.
Please don't hurt us, she told him. I was trying to appeal to his humanity.
But nothing she said could change Ronald's mind, as he was intent on wiping out the entire family.
He shot each family member twice, execution style.
Cassidy was critically injured and had suffered a skull fracture, but she played dead until the coast was clear. Despite the incredible trauma and unimaginable pain that she was in, Cassidy was still strong and brave enough to call 911. Her call likely saved additional lives.
Cassidy told police Haskell was heading to her grandparents' home, giving them a description of his car. The chase ended with Haskell in custody and Cassidy's grandparents safe.
Without her courage and quick thinking, we might be mourning the deaths of 20, yes, I said 20, people today, including myself and nearly all of our children and grandchildren.
Thanks to Cassidy's incredible strength, Ronald was put exactly where he belonged, behind bars, and charged with 6 counts of murder. He collapsed in court when the charges against him were read. Ronald's defense claimed that he was suffering from mental illness and had been for some time.
His attorney told us that Haskell was not taking his prescribed medication at the time of the killings.
Ronald pleaded guilty by reason of insanity, but was ultimately convicted. While in court, Cassidy got a chance to finally speak her truth to the man who not only wiped out her whole family, but also almost killed her. She did not hold back while Ronald avoided eye contact and looked at the floor.
My family always said that you only felt sorry for yourself, and I didn't want to believe that because I thought surely he has to feel bad for killing my family. And when I heard that you felt no remorse, something changed inside of me. And I didn't know what to do with that change, and it was causing me a lot of hurt and anger because that was my closure. My closure was the hope that you would feel bad.
Cassidy told Ronald that she knew there was nothing but her faith in God that could heal the horrible wounds she suffered and the pain that would be there for many days to come. It was up to the jury to decide whether Ronald should spend the rest of his life in prison or if he deserved to die for the pain that he caused so many people.
Mr. Haskell, please stand to receive the verdict.
Cassidy and the rest of the loved ones of the Stay family waited anxiously to hear what the fate of this man would be.
The court sentences you to death by lethal injection. It is therefore the order, judgment, and decree of this court that you be remanded to the custody of the sheriff of this county to be delivered to the institutional division of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, where you shall be continuously confined until 6 p.m. on a date to be determined when the proper authorities shall administer lethal injection sufficient to cause your death.
While on the stand, Cassidy had the chance to share what she felt about the jury's decision to sentence Ronald to death. She explained that she believes that the punishment that Ronald truly deserves and should receive is one that only God can give him.
The jury decided that you were going to die by lethal injection, and I respect their decision. Do I think the punishment fits the crime? No. I hope that when you die, you will get the punishment you deserve from God. Only God can help you now.
Despite everything that Ronald took from Cassidy, which is more than most lose in a lifetime, she made it clear that she won't allow him to rob her of her future.
I'm going to continue to live my life with happiness, and I'm going to move forward, and I'm going to forget about this, and I'm going to forget about you. You've been in control long enough, and now your game is up.
Ronald is 42 years old and has not yet been executed. There is no telling how much time he has. And so there you have it. 3 stories of 3 remarkable, determined, and very inspiring young women who were faced with the unthinkable and still didn't give up no matter what. Thanks for watching, and good night.